This video is brought to you by Patreon. Patreon! I baptized myself the Slut of Springfield. When coming up with original programming for children, one of the easier methods is to take genres associated with adults and make a version of it for kids. A game show, but for kids. A film review show, but for kids. A celebrity talk show, but for kids. A court show, but for kids. For Nickelodeon, this was a necessity while building up a post-Silver Ball library in the back half of the 1980s. And some of these shows were actually really good and successful. Double Dare more or less saved the channel. These quick and easy show pitches became less and less necessary as the 80s turned into the 90s, Nickelodeon finding itself with more money and new Florida studio space, which allowed them to create higher concept shows and start developing their own homegrown stars. However, during that same stretch of time in the late 80s, another children's cable channel was trying to build up their own library. The Disney Channel was not yet a major competitor for Nickelodeon, as it was a more expensive premium channel that started off mostly just airing Disney's back catalog. What original shows they did have were a little cheap and a little weird, at least to start. It was slow going for the channel. One day, the Disney Channel would receive a very Nickelodeon-esque pitch, an adult genre of television, but made for children. What if soap opera, but for kids? And Disney was initially interested, going so far as to co-produce a full 13-episode season. And Disney saw what they had made and passed on the show completely. Now, again, Nickelodeon was starting to get away from these simple pitches in the early 90s, but how many opportunities do you really have to go Disney dumpster diving? So they picked up the show instead. Premiering on Nickelodeon on February 2nd, 1991, this is 15.
When you're 15,
I asked you not to mention what happened on Friday night.
15,
Trust me, it's all set up.
15,
You're a bright guy, Dylan. Figure it out.
15, Nick's continuing high school saga, homework and heartache, dating and scheming, true love and true wickedness.
That should cause a few complications for Little Miss Perfect.
What will happen next? Find out on 15, Nick's continuing high school saga, every Sunday afternoon on Nick.
15 revolves around the day-to-day of the freshman and sophomore students of Hillside High School. Their lives and struggles interconnected through friendships, family connections, and rivalries. Ashley is the soft-spoken honor student, juggling classes and extracurricular activities and maintaining a relationship with her boyfriend Matt, the school's star basketball player, who might have a secret drinking problem.
You got a drinking problem and you gotta face it.
I do not have.
Yes, you do! I'm worried sick and I can't stand it anymore.
Then maybe you need a new boyfriend.
Matt.
If that's the way you feel, then it sounds to me like it's time you found someone else.
Matt's best friend Jake has a quiet crush on Ashley's best friend Courtney, but Courtney has a crush on the school's token bad boy, Dylan, a leather jacket wearing rebel who starts a garage band with Courtney's little brother, Billy.
If you want to know the truth, I think you're... never mind.
You think I'm what?
Just never mind.
I guess I'll see you around.
Billy's also friends with Olaf, a Finnish foreign exchange student who struggles to find a place for himself in the school. A young man interested in chess and teaming up with young activist Cindy in trying to save the environment.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? This bin's for paper. You don't chuck garbage into it.
Sorry.
I don't believe it. Tossing a potato chip bag into...
Then there's Brooke, the school's resident rich mean girl, and Matt's ex-girlfriend, who is constantly scheming up ways to cause drama and get what she wants. Her partner in crime is Kelly, But after Brooke throws her under the bus one too many times, Kelly starts to plot against her, with the help of Brooke's nicer little sister, Teresa.
Don't worry. We'll put our heads together and come up with a really good way how to get back at Ashley. Take my word. It may take some time. There'll be revenge.
Oh, yes. It may take some time, yeah. But there'll be revenge, Brooke. And you can take my word on that.
And that's just the status quo the show starts with. The show is fully serialized, with characters breaking up and pairing off in different combinations, subplots raised and dropped unceremoniously, anything resembling resolution a rarity. And then, every season break is a question of which of the young actors will be able to return, and which characters will have to be written off and vanish completely. Were you psyched about the power struggle between Brooke and Kelly? Well, unfortunately, Kelly's actress, Anuka Akuma, couldn't come back for season 2, so that plotline drops dead. Teresa's actress, Janine Cox, also couldn't return, and the show never recasts a character, so suddenly Brooke has no supporting cast for her whole storyline. Season 2 instead introduces a second little sister, Amanda, who had never been mentioned before, even though her existence means she'd have to be Teresa's twin?
That's not true! It's not true.
Likewise, Jake's actor, Ken Angel, is gone for season 2, putting the brakes on his romance with Courtney. They write him out saying he's taking a trip to China with his mom, but then he comes back in season 3, only to vanish forever in season 4. To fill the role of Matt's best friend, basketball student manager David is elevated from side character to main, and actually becomes one of the bigger characters on the show. I'd also be remiss not to mention Arsaman, a girl who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to say it as it is. She first shows up in season 2, not to replace anybody, but just to give Ashley and Courtney another friend to bounce things off of.
I think I might join the nunnery. Solve the whole thing.
Serious.
So's becoming a nun.
Arseman.
Look, I'm just not sure what the problem is. I mean, you like Matt. He asked you to go out with him.
I'm Ashley's best friend. She used to be Matt's girlfriend.
Ashley doesn't even live here anymore, and they broke up before she left.
I know, but I still feel like I was, I don't know, some kind of traitor.
And what's funny with all these cast changes is that the show was also constantly finding reasons to write out characters, only for those characters to come back a few episodes later. Ashley finds herself under so much pressure that she cheats on an assignment for the very first time. And when she gets caught, she is so ashamed that she self-exiles herself to a private school. But it doesn't stick. She comes back pretty quickly. Matt is finally sent to a rehab clinic to deal with his drinking problem. And that too is only for a brief period of time. He's back a few episodes later. Dylan drops out of school, and they don't even really write him out. The show focuses on him taking correspondence courses. So far, so teen drama. But 15 has a few twists up its sleeve. The show doesn't have a single adult cast member. It's all kids all the time. Oh, it has plenty of adult characters, providing plenty of drama, but they are all off-screen, merely existing in the dialogue the young characters tell each other at the Avalon, the diner they all hang out in. One major subplot comes in the divorce of Courtney and Billy's parents. The parents splitting up, teasing that they might get back together again, the two siblings being forced to live with one of them, dad dating again, the parents getting remarried, all information given to us secondhand.
So what is it?
Oh, nothing much, I guess. Just that Mom and Dad are getting back together again. Getting divorced instead.
Oh, no.
I guess I owe you $20.
You don't owe me anything.
Courtney, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna cope with it. That's what we're gonna do.
And those aren't the only things that are happening off screen. Pretty much any scene that can't happen in the school hallways, the Avalon, one of the kids' homes, or in later seasons, the mall, happens off screen. For example, Matt's championship basketball game. We build up to it, and we see the celebrations afterwards, but we never get to see the game itself. This does lead to some funny scenarios where things happen where they really shouldn't be happening. Like, 15 really wanted to feature a school talent show, but they didn't have an auditorium set, so the kids just performed their talents in the hallway.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to battle against the seas of troubles, and by opposing, end them.
The entire show takes place over a very small amount of time, a matter of months, but it remains very vague about that. The students never move up a grade, they never go on summer break, they never have birthdays, they never celebrate holidays. However, the amount of time covered in an episode varies greatly. Some episodes just cover a day in the life, while others cover the events of a week or even longer. It's surreal. Of course, the big selling point for 15 was its replication of the soap opera genre. None of the episodes are self-contained. The story just continues to move in incremental half-hour chunks. Moments of drama highlighted with over-the-top musical stings. Like most soap operas, 15 was shot on videotape, acted out on only a small handful of sets shot at different angles, and each episode was bookended with previously ons and next times, to try and keep the audience up to date, because like most soap operas, if you miss an episode, things might be very, very different by the time you come back. To help mitigate this, Nickelodeon aired 2 episodes every Saturday. The previous week's episode at 2 p.m., and the current episode at 5. And that was one major way that 15 differed from most other soap operas. It was a weekly show instead of every weekday, with very short seasons, usually 13 episodes long, with an average of 4 months break between seasons, for a grand total of 65 episodes, which is absolute chump change compared to adult soap operas. 15 uses the aesthetics of a soap opera without the material conditions that make soap operas what they are. The soap opera originates far back into the 1930s with daytime radio serials, dramas typically targeted towards women, the stay-at-home wives and mothers. The name originates from the common sponsors of these shows: Procter & Gamble, Colgate-Palmolive, Pepsodent, companies that make cleaning supplies and toothpaste. You know, soap. Most retrospectives will point to writer and actress Erna Phillips as the pioneer of the soap opera, debatably creating the very first one in 1930 with Painted Dreams. She was one of the big names to make the transition from radio to television with Guiding Light, which remains the longest running American soap opera. She also created As the World Turns and Another World, and was a script editor on Days of Our Lives. So while you shouldn't credit everything to one person, it's undeniable that Phillips had a major influence on what the soap opera genre became. Phillips' stories emphasized family drama, romance, and real-world problems, primarily delivered through dialogue instead of action, which makes perfect sense for radio, and was adopted by the quick production schedules of television soaps. Procter & Gamble money is nice and all, but it's not exactly Coca-Cola or Winston cigarettes. These daytime shows with half the potential daily audience had to be made cheap and in bulk in order to be profitable. You weren't going to have a car chase in the middle of As the World Turns. You were instead going to have people standing around in rooms, shot on video, flatly lit, getting upset with each other verbally. You were watching for the personal drama, freshly delivered each day. Because of this open narrative, rapid schedule, and lack of reruns, it was easy to miss something important if you skipped a day or two. It created what we today would call FOMO, fear of missing out. A pretty perfect formula for maintaining a dedicated audience. Of course, that's just one creator and a rough starting point. The soap opera has evolved in many different directions over the decades and taken on different flavors in different countries. And mapping all of that is beyond the scope of this video. What's important to note is that the material reality that made soap operas what they are did not exist for 15. 15 wasn't building on the traditions of radio serials. It wasn't beholden to less lucrative time slots. It wasn't producing daily episodes. 15's use of the soap opera format is entirely a stylistic choice.
You're watching 15 Weekend on Nickelodeon.
All right, now here's the thing. Why do they even talk to that horrible Brooke? It's ridiculous. She's always hanging around, listening in on people's private conversations and snooping around. She is so completely evil. Oh, I would never trust her. But you know you gotta have a Brooke. But I hate her. But don't you love to hate her? Yeah.
Now, back to Nick's continuing high school saga. It's 15 Weekend only on Nickelodeon.
15 was the brainchild of John T. Binkley. Born in Illinois in 1943, Binkley had quite a life apart from show business. He went to Stanford University to study philosophy and comparative religion, where, in 1965, he wrote and directed a play called The No Man's Child. Children have more impact on an audience. After all, who is really blind? Children or the adults in the world? The child's viewpoint on the world and the self-deception he sees will be the theme of this play. The play would be performed on the local PBS affiliate, Binkley's first brush with television. After schooling, Binkley ran a free clinic in Pasadena, California, then tried and failed to run for Congress in 1972, shortly after which he was found guilty of contributing to the delinquency of minors, a charge reduced from child molestation. He served a 1-year suspended sentence and 3 years of probation. It can never be simple, can it? I couldn't find many details on this case. Contributing to the delinquency of minors could mean he just gave some 12-year-olds a few cans of beer, which should still probably disqualify you from running a children's television show, but it could also be worse than that. I simply do not know. Just to get ahead of it, no child abuse was ever reported on the set of 15 or any of the other productions Binkley was involved with. After this, Binkley moved to Texas and spent most of the rest of the 70s working at his brother's wine distribution company. At some point, Binkley thought back to his theatrical children's stage play and wondered if an all-children's soap opera had any legs. He began to pitch the idea in 1979, and in 1980, he somehow came in contact with legendary television producer Norman Lear, whose sitcoms had dominated the 1970s. All in the Family, Maude, The Jeffersons. He's that guy. How a wine salesman in Texas and a television producer in Hollywood found themselves working together is undocumented, but Lear seemed interested enough in Binkley's idea to produce a pilot in 1980. Now, this pilot wasn't a high school drama like 15, but instead child actors performing the adult plots of adult soap operas, with topics like alcoholism and depression. At one point in the pilot, a young girl, playing an older woman, attempts suicide. It also didn't have a script. The child actors were asked to improvise through given scenarios. So as you can imagine, none of the American networks were interested. But you know who also loves soap operas? Great Britain. In 1983, ITV licensed out their 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. hours to TV AM, a breakfast television company producing early morning talk shows like Good Morning Britain, which included a children's segment called Splat. The head of TV AM's children programming was Ann Wood, future creator of the Teletubbies, and she was looking for something novel when Binkley's pilot fell into her lap. She too was turned off by the whole child acting out suicide thing, but thought the broader premise had promise, and in June of 1984, TV AM introduced No Adults Allowed.
Then.
No Adults Allowed echoed the neighborhood drama of popular British soaps like Coronation Street, the press even going so far as to nickname the show Kindergarten Street. The series would only last to September, but John Binkley was now officially a television person, and continued to develop the idea and shop it around. Sort of like how Roger Price kept doing these practice children's sketch shows before settling on to You Can't Do That on Television. Binkley's next children's soap opera came in 1987 with PBS's The Perkins Family.
In the program, the issues were provided by children, and all dialogue is improvised.
You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm surprised at you. A grown girl like you wasting your physical being on these cookies.
Produced by WGBH Boston, The Perkins Family was once again an improvised family drama soap with children playing adults, this time about the struggles of a stay-at-home mom having to go back into the workforce. There were a few aesthetic steps towards what would become 15, including a diner location where many of the characters congregate.
Need to go? Yeah. Can't wait to see your house. Goodbye, Elmo. Wait till y'all see this. Come here.
What is it?
Surprise. Meet Boy George.
Oh, man.
This show was a little more successful, running for nearly 2 years, but Binkley was still trying to grow the concept. So while The Perkins Family was in production, he approached the next big fish on the list, Disney. This time, Binkley was going to narrow the focus a bit. None of this kids playing adults thing, but a proper teen drama. Disney seemed interested in the possibilities, and tentatively commissioned a full 13-episode season. To help produce it, Binkley crossed the border to Canada, specifically to Burnaby, British Columbia, where the show became a co-production with BCTV, or British Columbia Television. And so in November of 1986, filming began on the secret first season of 15.
And you gotta talk to him and you tell him that you want back on the team.
It has
right
to be
now.
done.
It has to be done.
You decided, did you? You decided this, huh?
Well, we need you back on the team, man. Come on.
You haven't gotten Todd to ask you to the dance yet, have you?
No,
No!
I haven't. I'm sorry.
Todd was asking me about Maggie today. He wanted to know the name of the guy who she was taking to the dance.
Well, did you give him one?
No, I didn't give him a name.
I don't really care about Brooke. I mean, I was sitting there, I heard it all, I let her make the comments. I mean, I could have stood up and I could have, told her off.
As with the other Binkley projects, the original version of 15 had child actors improvising their lines from prompts, but otherwise all the pieces of the show we know is there. I think. Unfortunately, I don't have any full episodes of 15 1.0, just clips from a news magazine show highlighting its production.
Over 2,000 kids line up, hoping for a part on a soap opera. The auditions are fast. Everyone says 3 lines. Only the best move on to the next of many auditions. 8 weeks later, 16 local kids begin to work on the TV series. For most, it's their first professional acting job. The subjects dealt with on 15 are situations that kids deal with today. The crew really enjoyed working on the show. Often it brought back memories of their youth.
I think 15 is a really interesting show. I think it brings back a lot of memories when I was in high school, and I find it kind of fun to relate to some of the characters because it probably brings back memories of certain situations I found myself going through when I was in high school.
15, the first teen soap opera on Canadian TV. It's not a lot different from adult soaps. The emotions are very much the same.
Cut. Stop tape, please.
I also don't know if this is in continuity with the Nickelodeon show, though many of the details are there. Hillside, the Avalon. Going from the clips, there's a character named Brooke, though I don't know if she's the same kind of troublemaker. 13 episodes were completed, and they did air, but only on BCTV in 1987. Hey, if anyone watching lived in Vancouver or the surrounding area around that time, check your old box of VHS tapes. I would love to watch a full episode of Early Access 15. Now, the exact reason the Disney Channel backed out isn't clear. According to Binkley, we ran into some flack with the upper management at Disney on whether Disney should have a soap opera. Which is weird, right? You'd think those discussions with upper management would have happened before Disney partially financed a full season of television. 15 wasn't the most expensive show to produce, but it wasn't free, meaning Disney would only stand to lose money by not airing the show at least once. Which leaves me with only one logical but unconfirmable conclusion. The original run of 15 sucked. That's only speculation. I can't say for certain without watching at least one full episode, but why else would the Disney Channel turn it down after the show was finished? In any case, Binkley went back to pitch mode, and in late 1989, Nickelodeon picked up the phone. Once again, this new 15 would be a co-production with BCTV, but its Canadian broadcast would be retitled Hillside, probably to not confuse Canadian viewers into thinking that this was 15 Season 2. Finally, after 10 years of making children's soap operas, Binkley realized that maybe, just maybe, his shows should start having scripts. So he brought in playwright Ian Weir as the show's head writer.
And at this point I was reeling, thinking, being a Canadian, we're used to spending the first several weeks of the process analyzing all the possible ways it could go wrong before we decide we're even going to commit to this. And working with John, it was an introduction to an American way of doing things, which was full of tremendous optimism and tremendous self-confidence, and a tremendous willingness to trust in the instincts, and simply to go with creative instincts.
In the spring of 1990, over 2,000 kids around the Vancouver area auditioned in an open call, which was eventually narrowed down to a cast of 11. While the improvising element of the show was out, the young actors were still involved in the writer's room, brought into story conferences to help develop their characters and storylines. The first season of Nickelodeon's 15 began filming in October of 1990, and premiered on the children's cable channel the following February. 15 was, at least initially, quite successful. The show's target demographic was 9 to 12-year-olds, under the theory that kids tend to look up towards older people in stories than try to find their peers. Nickelodeon was surprised to find that 15 was actually reaching a much wider audience than they predicted. After Nick decided to go with my show, they said they were tapping out at about age 12. If your show could bring in a few 13-year-olds or maybe a couple of 14-year-olds, we'd be thrilled. After it had been on for a year, though, Nielsen's revealed that 1/3 of the audience was 2 to 11, 1/3 was 12 to 17, and 1/3 was 18 to 50. I would not have predicted that a show designed for children on a children's channel could somehow cross over and draw a family audience. For Season 2, the name of the show in Canada switched back to 15, and production was moved from Burnaby to Ottawa with CJOH-TV, Channel 13, who were looking to fill up the hole in their production space after the cancellation of You Can't Do That on Television in 1990. On a thin $900,000 season budget, 15 kept itself a non-union production, which meant, among other things, the child actors wouldn't receive any residuals for the first 5 years. This resulted in a number of talent agencies refusing to work with the production when it came time to cast new roles. It was a really difficult decision not to send anyone to the auditions, but out of respect to other producers I deal with who pay regular rates, I cannot send my actors out for less than they're worth. Finally, for Season 3 onward, production moved to Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida. Now, Season 1 was pretty novel and had all of the show's most developed ideas. It is, in my opinion, the best season of the show. Season 2 and 3 are dull. The bulk of their time is dedicated to the drama of Dylan and Billy's band. They introduce new characters like troubled teen Chris and punk girl Roxanne, and then spend 2 whole seasons trying to find a singer, trying to book gigs, squabbling over who's good enough to be in the band and who's in charge of the band, and it just goes on forever. At one point, Arsman becomes their singer, and we get the show's big original song.
Well, I'm too old to cry and I'm too young to cry. But Mama says be glad I'm young and don't ask why. Because I'm 15, not old enough to be free. Yes, I'm 15 years old, and that's the trouble with me.
Yeah, because when I think of a teenage rock and roll garage band, I think easy listening blues. Brooke does her best to stir the pot these seasons, but with her supporting cast obliterated between seasons 1 and 2, she doesn't find nearly as much traction. One of the few non-band related season 2 subplots involves Brooke's sister Amanda stealing Courtney's necklace and putting the blame on transfer student Janice, played by You Can't Do That on Television alumni Rekha Shah. Struggling to make friends at the school, Janice has a total breakdown.
Look at my old school. I was on the soccer team. Everybody liked me. I was smart. And I come here, and it's not just that I'm not popular anymore. It's also, I've turned into this idiot. I open my mouth and the stupidest things come out. There, see? I hear what I'm saying, and I see people look at me like I'm crazy, and I think, Janice, shut up. But I can't. I've forgotten how to talk, and I've forgotten how to shut up. See, I can't even shut up now.
It's okay, you don't have to shut up now.
Courtney. It's all right. Take it easy.
And then in season 3, both Amanda and Janice are wished away into the cornfield and are never mentioned again. Cast members leave, and Jake comes back for a spell, but season 3 doesn't introduce any new regular characters, and we're just stuck with more band drama. I think it's worth mentioning where teen dramas were at when 15 was airing, where the show ranked amongst its peers. The Nickelodeon version of 15 premiered in the final weeks of Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High's joint 5-season run, Degrassi becoming the foundation for one of the longest-running teen drama franchises ever, and for many people, setting the gold standard as to what teen dramas could be. And one of the keys to that was an unflinching look at serious topics. Degrassi featured underage sex, teen pregnancy, abortion, abusive parents, racism, homophobia, AIDS, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, eating disorders, violence, and suicide. It was a heavy world these characters lived in, and that drew in audiences. 15 was not that. It was cute and low stakes. Stories of getting first kisses with your crushes and then assuming the worst because your boyfriend was within the same zip code of another girl. Judy Blume books were harder than 15. The one heavy topic the show had in its first 3 seasons, Matt's teen alcoholism, was handled poorly, if for no reason that it never showed Matt drinking or being drunk. It's as if the show was ashamed to even be going there. The show is not intended to focus on the seamy, sensational side of life. It's not about incest and murder, but about the experience of the everyday kid. We want it to be fun, meaningful for the kids, engaging and compelling. We want the kids and audience to leave feeling good about the kids. Around the time 15 went into production in October of 1990, Fox premiered Beverly Hills 90210, which became a huge success. A much slicker production than Degrassi, 90210 covered a lot of the same heavy topics, but with more pretty young actors in designer clothes, acting out in the backdrop of the rich suburbs of Los Angeles. It traded in that sense of authenticity for MTV magazine cover flashiness. 15 couldn't possibly compete against 90210's budget, and it had no interest in that show's sensationalism and glamour. In that sense, 15 is more authentic. Its child actors closer to real kids than 90210's J.C. Penney catalog models. But that could also be seen as 15 being more boring, that you're getting a duller product from a paid cable subscription than you could get for free on network television. And sure, the 90210 actors were much older than their characters, but also means they were better, more experienced actors. Both shows may have had a rough outsider character named Dylan, but only one of these shows had Luke Perry. But perhaps that's unfair. Degrassi and Beverly Hills 90210 were teen dramas, while 15 was a teen soap opera. That has different priorities, right? And that's a novel idea, right? No one else was doing teen soap operas. Tribes was a teen soap opera that aired on Fox between March and July of 1990. Created by actual veteran soap opera writers and producers, Tribes took on all the aspects of soap operas that 15 chose to ignore. The quick production turnover, the airing episodes every weekday, the melodrama. It wasn't good, but Tribes was much more committed to the gimmick than 15 ever was. Honestly, I'm not sure why 15 even had to be a soap opera, beyond the fact that Binkley just didn't know how to pitch anything else. Now, all of those shows predate 15. What about something that began production after 15 started? Something possibly made in response to it. Swan's Crossing premiered in syndication on June 29, 1992. Best known today for having the first leading role for Sarah Michelle Gellar, Swan's Crossing is a kids' soap opera that has its tongue firmly planted in its cheek. The chronicles of wealthy kids living in the titular seaside town, the show goes for bonkers set pieces with Russian spies, families living in submarines, teenagers developing their own rocket fuel, and spontaneous musical numbers. This shit was goofy, and honestly, it could have worked as a Nickelodeon show if the stars had aligned that way. 15 wasn't goofy. It barely ever attempted jokes. These kids were dead serious. But again, dead serious about Dylan's band. There's just no levity in any of this. So you have a show that isn't as serious as Degrassi, isn't as sexy as Beverly Hills 90210, isn't as committed to its genre as Tribes, and isn't as over the top as Swan's Crossing. So what exactly was 15 even offering? Beyond a few sparse gimmicks like having no adult characters, not much. It is, I suppose, the safe bologna sandwich on white bread option. Something easy to digest, that parents won't object to, that you could watch along with your 4-year-old brother and your 80-year-old grandma. I suppose some people prefer the mild salsa for their chips. But I'll tell you, I never watched 15 when it was on, while I was watching 90210 way too young. Season 3 ended with the departure of Brooke, easily the show's best character and the one consistent antagonist keeping things lively. Actress Robin Ross was the oldest of the cast members, 17 when season 1 began, and she was aging out of the eternal sophomore year. Binkley would regret letting her go. By the 3rd season, all of a sudden she's 19 and she's really looking older. We reluctantly let her go and recast her. Robin was not replaceable. I made a mistake. We should have kept her even if she looked 45.
I don't want to go.
What are you talking about?
All my friends are here. Everyone I care about. I don't want to lose all my friends.
The show would also lose Courtney and Jake around this time. So as I was watching this series for the video, I was dreading going into Season 4. But to my surprise, Season 4 was a huge uptick in quality for the show. Not as polished as Season 1, but way better than Seasons 2 and 3. First off, no more band drama. Dylan is off getting accused of stealing money from his employer, and Billy gets a new stepbrother. New things are happening. Secondly, the show had a huge influx of new characters brought in, and with them, fresh storylines. Pepper is a tomboy who is frustrated by the lack of a girls' soccer team, so she tries out for the boys' team instead.
Neither one of you thought I had a hope. Underestimating girls. That's a very bad habit, and it looks like I'm gonna have to help you break it.
Liz is a shy girl who writes poetry in her spare time, but when her poetry is discovered and read aloud to the whole school, she gets super embarrassed.
I mean, I didn't hear the poem, but I bet it was pretty good.
Yeah, and I bet everyone's having a good laugh.
Why would they be laughing? Because the poem is probably really lousy.
You talking about your poetry?
Yeah, such as it is.
Hey, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the poem was good. The way Stacy read it was totally stupid.
You thought the poem was okay?
Yeah, really good metaphors.
And finally, touching on the show's second serious topic, we have Russ, who gets diagnosed with leukemia.
I don't want anyone else to know, Roxanne. I want them to treat me like a person, not like someone who's sick.
Are Chris and I treating you like that? And if we're treating you like a person, why wouldn't all your other friends too?
It's just nice to see new things, you know? Brooke's role as serious villain gets replaced by Jennifer, a materialistic snob who ruins everyone's day by being, as she would put it, painfully honest.
The fact is, guys, money makes the world go round. We all know that. And if my opponent doesn't like it, well, hey, I guess we better stop the world, because obviously Russ wants to get off.
It's not quite as good as Brooke, but at least the show knew it needed this kind of character. So yeah, Season 4 feels much fresher. I think the production finally realized the importance of shaking up the status quo and bringing in new characters when actors leave. However, too little too late, as Season 4 would be 15's final, the last new episode airing on April 25th, 1993. The series didn't get a finale. Plot threads remain unresolved, romance is unrequited, Russ still has leukemia. The series would continue in reruns for another year, broadcasting its last on June 25th, 1994. Nickelodeon was starting to fill up with animation, sitcoms, and genre fare, much of it a lot more polished than 15, so it's easy to see why it would be pushed out of the nest. Though I'd like to remind you of the show's non-union status and the whole child actors don't see residuals for the first 5 years. And that 5-year mark was right around the corner. In any case, Nickelodeon would make another straight live-action teen drama until Caitlin's Way in 2000. Up in Canada, the first season, aka Hillside, would rerun on YTV between 1992 and 1993, enough to make the internet think it premiered on YTV, which it did not. And then, as far as I know, 15 hasn't graced television sets since. The series never got a home video release, but streaming has been much kinder. At the time of this writing, you can watch the entire series for free on both Amazon and the Roku channel. John Binkley would try one more time to produce a child soap opera with the 1994 return of No Adults Allowed, which aired for like a minute up in Canada. After that, Binkley stuck to theater for pretty much the rest of his life, passing away in 2023 at the age of 80. Some of the cast would continue acting into adulthood. Both Chris William Martin, who played Dylan, and Robin Ross, who played Brooke, have remained consistent guest actors on television. Todd Talbot, who played Matt, became the host of home design reality series Love It or List It Vancouver. Enuka Akuma, who played Kelly, had a starring role in the police procedural Rookie Blue, and Laura Harris, who played Ashley, has had major roles in 24 and Dead Like Me. But let's be real. The main reason 15 is remembered today is because Billy was the first role for one Ryan Reynolds.
I quit acting after that and then just went and... Because I hated it then. I really did. I just did it to just kind of get out of the house. After that, I ended up, working in a warehouse, and I worked at a restaurant for 2 years, it's actually good. I'm glad I did that because I didn't end up like a child actor with some, depraved drug addiction and
I'd love to say that 15 gave me some insight into Reynolds' character or acting style or something, but in truth, Ryan Reynolds was a just okay child actor, mostly notable for being only one of 4 actors to last through all 4 seasons. But as long as Reynolds is famous, 15 will always be remembered, as a piece of trivia, if nothing else. 15 wasn't amazing. It suffered from its frequent cast changes, the middle seasons really dragged, and whatever you might want from a soap opera for kids, you could find a better version of that thing somewhere else. But even so, 15 filled a hole. Nickelodeon didn't have much in the way of teen dramas at the time, and there was a limit to how serious they could get anyway. This would change with time, but for where Nickelodeon was in 1991, 15 was a decent fit, and it was the best version of John Binkley's weird idea. And I can respect a weird idea.
Nick, 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 Nickelodeon. Nick, 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 Nickelodeon.
Next time, Nickelodeon may have replaced You Can't Do That on Television spot in the Ottawa television production scene, but what show replaced it for the channel? We take a look at Nickelodeon's odd little sketch comedy show that strangely turned itself into a sitcom partway through. Today's research shout-out goes to the newspaper archives, especially those that have Canadian and British newspapers. So many fine details of John Binkley's career and 15's production came from these tiny little articles in the entertainment pages of daily local newspapers, like the show's non-union status, or the pre-Nickelodeon made-for-Disney season, or Binkley's arrest. And this retrospective would have been far less complete without those facts. If you work on projects that require a lot of research, a subscription to at least one of these newspaper services is definitely worthwhile. Thank you all for watching. If you'd like to support Knacks and other Pop Arena projects, consider contributing to my Patreon. Every dollar goes to research materials, production values, and caffeine to aggravate the anxiety. You can also support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, hitting that bell icon for notifications, leaving a comment, sending a one-time donation through PayPal or Coffee, and sharing Knacks with all your friends. Thank you again, and remember, Black Lives Matter, trans rights are human rights, and free Palestine.